When the hay's come on and the mowing begun, the farmers will gather the fruit of the sun. So me jolly boys, to the end we will go, to the end we will go, till it's all of a row. All of a row, all of a row, to the end we will go, till it's all of a row.
See, I've lived through the time of old horse mowing machines, and then tractors came in long after my time up here, because we were behind when we got, it wouldn't pay to have tractors about in the old days. I mean, you had a couple of horses and that was all you needed.
The hay timing and the haymaking was very much a time of year that brought the whole community together. Everyone came out, everyone was part of it. And I think it also connected people to the land and to where their food came from, and to sort of the importance of managing that land. I think maybe we've slightly lost that connection.
It's a very strong sort of community effort as well. That's kind of gone with forage harvesting and things like that, where it's all done mechanically in a matter of hours now, whereas this would be, like say everybody would be involved. It was very much a manual task in those days.
Now farming is actually a very lonely job, because on most farms there's just one, sometimes two. A lot of the major work, a lot of the silaging, a lot of the hay timing is done by contract, so it's in and out within a day.
Well, today we're planting stuff in the hay meadow that spread seeds and help more stuff grow.
It helps nature, and without pollen or bees we won't have honey, and some of them produce quite a lot of things for us.
It helps the wildlife and birds and helps things eat.
Bees pollinate flowers and it makes honey, and so we can stay healthy.
It's a more healthy way of doing things. It's about quality of life. It's about doing things not just doing for the quickest buck. It's to make so we live in a richer, more interesting, more vibrant environment.
A lot of farmers are part of some kind of stewardship scheme where they receive payment in return for managing their land better by somebody's definition.
Whether you're a gardener, a farmer, you know that plants, flowers, everything needs feeding. To give land nothing is detrimental, really.
Although the farmers are paid a premium to manage this meadow, to restore it to species-rich grassland, there's a huge tension between when we would like it shut up, which is the end of April, to when they'd like it shut up, which is middle of May, when we'd like it cut, which is when everything's set seed, which will be mid-August, and when they want to cut, which will be mid-July, because they like to shut the fields up 6 to 8 weeks to get the better quality hay. That's not what you need for the wildflowers to set seed.
It's very difficult for me as a farmer. We've got a late spring last year, we've got an early spring this year. Things have seeded and things haven't seeded. We want to be able to work that out ourselves.
Use your own judgment. Yeah.
And the high level stewardship was actually designed to do that we could actually move dates and move stocking rates, because it means an awful lot to us. As this produce we get off here, it's our livelihood for the rest of the year. Yeah. Through them 5 months of winter, 6 months of winter.
Meadows, when you think of it, a fairly pivotal role. The summer and the hay crop probably dictated how difficult the winters would be on farms. There wasn't the same number of stock, but that stock had to be fed, and making a good hay crop was sort of essential. And you hear some fairly grim stories when you read back in history where if it had been a wet summer, the sort of cattle were often quite emaciated by the end of winter. So you can imagine the relief when it was a good haymaking summer and then they get a good crop in.
We're trying to make a product, and if it's rubbish, we've got to buy concentrates in to back that quality up in the winter. Whereas we can make good quality forage through the summer. As long as it's mown and lain for 2 days and scrounged out 3 times, they're quite happy that the seeds have shed. Yeah. That's basically what we're doing. That's why they want us to make hay. So it gets dried out and the seeds are shed, and everything starts all over again.
But the idea is to create species-rich meadows with abundance of wildflowers in which will ultimately, when they flower, will attract the insects and the pollinators. and the bees and the birds, which has got to be great for crop production in the long run.
There's lots of work to show that if you have the right pollinator, you get better quality seed. That's where we need to go for our food and for our resources. And even if we don't eat what comes out of the wildflowers, that's what keeps our pollinators going. They need the whole array. We have to balance that up. We have to grow efficiently. I don't think we'll ever be food safe in this country because we can't grow enough. But if we don't have our pollinators, we're nowhere. So it all needs very careful balancing up.
Everything is interdependent, and if you lose one thing, you're likely to lose a lot else. You know, it's a chain of events, and you lose all kinds of other things. It's all interconnected, really.
My memories go back to my father's time after the First World War, and the meadows there where they did sort of size great boundaries and left them free for things like wild partridge and curlews and stuff. There was a feeling for allowing things to happen and be free, and yet still have a good crop.
Going back years and years and years, there would have been many more of these meadows, and they've disappeared mainly because of changes in farming practices. And those weren't, farmers saying, "I hate hay meadows, I'm going to get rid of them." It's just economics, and what was the very much seen as the right thing to do is to intensify, especially after the Second World War.
We sort of come out of the war and we're after more food for Feed the Nation. A lot of the agricultural research institutes were being funded to go out and research in how to intensify land management and get more food out of the land. It's what they were taught to do effectively, so they were just following the guidance of what people were telling them to do.
The present day thing is to get more out of grass than you can have.
We've all got to make a living. Whatever business you are in, if you're not making a living and if you're not making it pay. There was once a farmer asked up Langdale, "What will you do when they take all the subsidies off?" And he said, "Leave, because we've got to make a living. If it doesn't pay, it doesn't stay."
It's a tragedy, really, but I mean, there must be thousands of farms done away with or amalgamated into other farms now.
There are mechanisms, natural mechanisms, that control a species' behaviour so they don't become dominant and risk their own future. And that's the sort of curve we've got to get into, is a biodiversity context. It's understanding how do we accommodate ourselves in the bigness of it all, really.
Food prices are being kept low by the government, so there's very little margin in it, so we have to produce it quite efficiently, so we haven't got this room that we're supposed to have for the environment. Possibly the environment stuff should be separated totally from farming, rather than trying to balance the two together.
We have tried to make our land very productive since the war, I suppose. And at the moment we are thinking, what has happened to our birds and our flowers and the quality of the landscape?
We've just switched it from the land as providing food into the land providing pleasure. So to a certain extent we have lost this idea that the land is a productive thing for food growing.
It's got to be sustainable for agriculture. You can't just run it as some kind of hobby.
You can't live in a dream world, can you? We've got to have highly, highly efficient farming. And highly efficient farming doesn't lend itself to pretty flowers.
It's very difficult from anyone's perspective to always put the environment first, understandably. I think what is important to realise though is that because our environment provides us with so many essential services, if we do not do what we can do to protect it now, we'll suffer hugely in the future.
I am driven by a very powerful instinct called survival. And I think our species, Homo sapiens, is at the point of being seriously under threat by the way we've overexploited and squeezed every inch of resourcefulness out of the planet we can in order to stay in the capitalist system with the rest of the world wanting to join the club. I want to escape from all of that and talk with people and hold hands with people who are trying to find a serious transition approach which allows us to live for as long as we can on planet Earth before it's beyond our control to do anything about it.
And all the time you're passing on probably ideas and knowledge and hope.
Hope?
Hope.
Why is hope important?
Well, it's our future. I mean, what are we doing in farming? I mean, we've lost a lot of our wonderful old ways of farming, haven't we? I mean, we're destroying our beautiful wildlife and bees and everything to do with it. We've got to be careful, haven't we? It's a serious game. And yet, agriculture and the needs of people and our greed is just being driven on. And you understand that too? You can't just have pretty places, can you?